You're listening to the Culips English podcast. To download the study guide for this episode, which includes the transcript, detailed vocabulary explanations, real-world examples, and a quiz, visit our website, culips.com. CULIPS.com. Hello, everybody. My name is Andrew.
And I'm Jeremy.
And you're listening to Culips. Hey there, Jeremy. How's it going?
Really well, Andrew. How about you?
I am doing very well as well. I'm up early in the morning to record here with you, Jeremy, but I have a big cup of coffee and it's helping me wake up, and I'm ready to take on the day by starting the day with a Culips episode. There's no better way to start the day, really.
I agree. It is mid-afternoon for me in California time. So I'm tired for different reasons.
All right. Well, I'm sure when we talk about today's exciting topic, we'll both be refreshed and rejuvenated. And that's because we're going to talk about a very topical issue today, Jeremy, something that's happening right now, and that is the World Cup.
The World Cup.
The World Cup. But just before we get started, I want to remind all of our listeners that we have a study guide for this episode. So if you would like to study along with our study guide, which includes lots of great things like a transcript and discussion questions, vocabulary, definitions, and examples, well, you can download it by visiting our website, which is culips.com. Okay, Jeremy, you and I were laughing a little bit just a couple minutes ago because we thought maybe we're not the most qualified people to talk about this topic, the World Cup.
Yeah, I feel a little unqualified.
Well, I'm Canadian and you're American, and actually both the Canadians and the Americans didn't even qualify for the World Cup this year.
Oh my gosh.
So maybe that tells everybody something about the interest in soccer that North Americans have.
Yeah, whenever I think of the World Cup, I think about other countries. I never think about the U.S. team and the World Cup. I don't even remember hearing much about it in my lifetime.
The earliest memory I have of the World Cup is when the USA hosted the World Cup, and that was in 1994.
Oh, wow.
I think I'm a couple years older than you, though, Jeremy, so maybe you don't even remember that time.
That was, let's see, I was in first grade. So no, I don't remember very well.
Well, let's talk in a general sense.
Okay.
And I'm curious about the vibe in the USA. Do people care? Is it just you that really has no interest in the World Cup? Do other Americans watch the games at all?
Well, I'm not the most representative American in the sense that I live in Los Angeles, California, and this area specifically is very diverse, very international. So,
right.
For example, yesterday I heard that when Mexico won the recent game that they played against South Korea, in a certain area of Los Angeles, someone went outside and they could hear people cheering around the neighborhood. Like everywhere you went, you could hear Mexican people cheering for their team.
Oh, wow.
And since my family is Korean and I spend a lot of time around Korean people, I also heard about the game before it happened and how people were interested in watching it. So to make a long story short, basically I hear about the World Cup from people from other countries. I don't hear much about it from American people.
Yeah. I think to share the Canadian perspective,
Yeah.
Canadians are slightly interested in the World Cup, but that's only because it's the off season right now for hockey. If hockey was on at the same time as these international soccer games, well, I think there would be a very low level of interest. But one thing I don't really understand, and I'm curious if it's the same in the States as well, is that when you're a little kid in Canada, I don't know, from maybe 5 years old to 13 years old, almost every kid plays soccer. It's really, really popular for parents to put their children into soccer. So we have this kind of infrastructure. We have a system in place that gets kids interested in playing soccer when they're young. But for whatever reason, that fizzles out once these kids become teenagers. And it seems like there's not many people that continue to play soccer on a higher level or that continue to be interested in watching soccer on a professional level. Is that the same in the States as well?
Yeah, at least in my experience, that was the same. I grew up playing soccer. My brother played soccer as well. It's very common to see a group of children running around chasing a ball at a park on a Saturday. It's very common to see that. And yeah, I remember playing soccer much more than watching soccer in my life. However, when I got a little older, I started playing basketball. I played baseball a little bit also when I was young. And it seems like as I got older, I started to get interested in more, I guess you could say, American sports, like basketball.
Yeah.
Specifically basketball and American football.
Oh, okay.
They kind of take the place of soccer, or as it should be called, football.
Right.
they take the place of that. So people are much more excited about those games and the playoffs and the finals and the championship, things like that. Is it the same with hockey in Canada? And if not just hockey, are there other sports that people get excited about?
Yeah, absolutely. Hockey is the most followed sport in Canada. We also have a league called the CFL, which stands for the Canadian Football League, which is similar to the NFL, but has a couple of rule changes to try to make the games a little faster and more interesting. And that's really popular as well. My father is a huge fan of the CFL, so we would always watch it at my house.
Oh, wow.
Basketball is huge too, but for whatever reason, soccer, it just doesn't get the respect it deserves. And I know we probably have some listeners right now who are tearing their hair out because they're frustrated. We have a lot of listeners from countries like Brazil and Mexico and Korea and Japan, where soccer is absolutely huge. So I'm sorry to all of those listeners that we can't say anything more interesting about the World Cup, but I think that's just North American culture.
Yeah, it seems like the sports that North Americans are attracted to are more individual oriented. So in basketball, one player can dominate the game and the team can win because of that one player's effort. In American football, the quarterback or some famous receiver or some famous running back. What I mean is there are usually heroes, sort of, to follow. There are individuals that can dominate the game. And it seems like North Americans really like this style of play. But I don't know much about hockey. Is hockey that way as well?
Yeah, there are definitely hockey superstars. I actually don't follow hockey too closely myself these days,
Yeah.
but there are elite players in the league that everybody worships and that can really dominate a game. And yeah, I think you might be on to something that we really like the superstars in North America. But there are really, really good soccer players who are worshipped as well and
Yeah.
respected as well. So
Maybe one other aspect of it is every other country has a long history, sometimes thousands of years of history, you know. Whereas North America, being, countries, Canada and the US, are countries mostly of immigrants, right, from Europe or from wherever. So there's less a sense of pride or country pride, nationalism, sort of.
yes,
There's more a sense of city pride or state pride. So people are proud of the city they're from, and there's a hockey team that represents that city. There's a basketball team that represents that city. In California, it's very common to see someone with a American football team flag on their car from a different city. So they live in LA, but they have an Oakland Raiders license plate frame and a flag flying out of their car. It's like nationalism. It looks like country pride in Europe, but it's more about the city here, I think. Would you agree?
yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I think you're right in terms of the professional hockey league in Canada. It's always city versus city, right?
Yeah.
I come from Vancouver. We have a huge rivalry with Calgary, which is the next closest city.
Interesting.
So it's kind of this intercity battle. But I will say, overall, I think Canadians are not as patriotic as people from other countries. Definitely living in Korea now, I notice, wow, Korea is really patriotic, more so than I think Canada is. But Jeremy, the one time that Canadians get really patriotic over sports is when we face your country, when we play the USA.
Exactly.
For whatever reason,
Yeah.
you know, if it's a gold medal hockey game in the Olympics, if it's versus Russia or versus Sweden, of course we're cheering for Canada to win. We're patriotic. But if it's versus the USA, it gets ramped up to the next level and we're extra patriotic. And I don't know why that is. It's so silly.
Well, now that you say that, it makes me think maybe it's just shared borders. We don't share a border really, except with Mexico, but that's sort of a different, the situation is a little different there. But in Europe, every country borders another country. Korea as
Right.
well. Although it's North Korea now, China is over across the water. Japan is on the other side. So other countries in general they have a long history and they have a neighboring country, sometimes sharing a border. So maybe that contributes to the sense of national pride and a desire to battle the neighbors nearby, something like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is, but it's definitely interesting. And Jeremy, I'm not sure if you heard the news, but it was just announced that not the next World Cup, but the World Cup after that, I think it's in the year 2022 or 2024. I'm not sure when, actually. But it will be co-hosted by the North American countries. So Canada, USA, Mexico, we're going to share the World Cup.
Wow.
And it will be interesting to see if the interest in that World Cup is higher than this World Cup that's in Russia right now, because it will be in our own backyards.
I hope it will be.
Yeah, I think it will be fun. And Jeremy, one last question here before we take off. What's your prediction for a World Cup winner? Do you have any idea?
Oh, I have no idea. This is embarrassing. I feel like I should look something up on the internet before I say anything. Oh my God.
I think picking a country like Brazil or Argentina or Germany is always a safe bet. So I'm going to select Germany to win the World Cup this year.
Well, my completely uneducated opinion is that Germany will win as well, because actually my only positive memory of the World Cup was when I was in Germany for the World Cup. Gosh, I forget how many years ago it was, maybe 12 years ago.
Okay.
And I have very fond memories of being around German people watching World Cup games. So I hope the Germans win the World Cup this year.
Okay, very good. Well, we'll leave it at that for today. I want to thank everybody for listening. And I'm sorry, guys, that we didn't have anything more interesting to say about the World Cup.
We apologize.
Once again, the study guide for this episode is available on our website, culips.com, and we're also on social media. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Culips podcast, and on Twitter by searching for Culips. If you want to send us an email, you can definitely do that. Our email address is contact, CONTACT, @culips.com. We will be back soon with another episode, and we will talk to you then. Bye, everybody.
Bye for now.
Have you signed up for the Culips newsletter? You can receive updates on all the latest episodes, tips about learning English, and special Culips offers delivered directly to your inbox for free. To join, just visit culips.com and enter your email address at the bottom of the page.